Hey, whenever you're ready, Dave.
Let's go. Are we already on?
Of course. Dude.
Okay.
You know how I roll.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. Are you? Ivan's really nervous today. His palms are sweaty.
Are you going to introduce him?
Yeah. Or do you want to?
No, you
Okay.
introduce him.
All right, we've got a special. We have a very special guest today, Ivan Pinchuk from Loan Depot. But you're much more than that, right? And we're going to kind of dive into that a little bit today and talk about how you might be a Russian spy. Is that a sensitive topic?
Not at all.
Okay, cool.
Sleeper agent.
Why'd you flinch a little bit when I said that? By the way,
This guy's got a really interesting upbringing for
Does he?
sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, that's the topic. We're gonna just bullshit a little bit and see what comes out. But we probably will talk a little bit about loan stuff at some point, so you can call this a work day and not just a BS day.
Yeah. Tell Raina that you're working.
Should have
Yeah.
brought Raina if we're going to talk about work, but okay.
I do appreciate that you're wearing a law enforcement related shirt. Dave's got his quick launch shirt, and I'm wearing a 9-line shirt. So
Yeah.
it's a good vibe, good advertising. Yeah. So break us in, dude. Like, you do have an interesting background. Drop a little bit of knowledge on it.
Real quick before we do
there's
that
more.
too. So Ivan works for Loan Depot. Him and his wife Raina.
You're doing the full.
Yeah, I'm letting them know.
Okay, I just threw it out there. I didn't.
Dude, somebody's gonna be like, I don't want to listen to this Russian guy. I gotta let him know he's got something. Anyways, no, Ivan actually has been doing loans for us for a couple of years. And he used me as an agent one time. I don't think he wants me to tell anybody that, but he used me as an agent. It was pretty cool. So, but they do a phenomenal job. We've had lots of clients.
2 times, but okay.
It was 2 times. It was 2 times. All right. But the cool thing is, we've used Ivan personally ourselves when we bought my mom's house, and a lot of clients, he's actually saved me in quite a few deals where I've had clients that for whatever reason can't get through the process with whatever lender they're using. And I've referred them to Ivan and Raina. And I will give you credit to this, that you guys work your butts off. These are the type of people that when I call them at 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night, because I have a client that called me at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night and I accidentally answered my phone.
Yeah,
they're all about it. They work extremely hard and have great, great client care.
Let's be real. I think his relationship is like mine in that his wife is the smart one.
Oh,
right?
100%. Yeah. I'm sorry. I failed to say that.
Yeah.
I use Ivan to pull them in, be like, oh, you want to meet a really nice guy? Meet him. And then they
Very
call me and they're
charismatic.
like, well, and I'm like, well, don't worry. His wife does most of the stuff behind the scenes.
That's my world too, bro. I get it. It's cool.
I say it all the time. It's just the face and the mouth, and then the rest goes to Raina, but
Yeah.
I got to be the mouth. Don't get excited, Dave. But yeah, we have a great team.
No, let me turn it. Trust me. Relax. Just relax.
Got me excited.
Okay.
No, we have a great team. Raina and I are partners in life and business. And then we have an associate, Danielle, who's an absolute superstar and helps us, close loans on times and make the clients happy and make the agents happy. But yeah, Dave's right. I might be the face and be the loud one and talk the most. Definitely the loud one. But then the brains, they do have brains. They're just not in my personal head. They're in my wife's head. So it works out.
Oh, you're going somewhere else with that.
Whoa,
All right.
bro.
Yeah.
There we go again. But yeah, we have a great team. I've been in a banking and lending industry for about 18 years. Raina's been doing this for about 15, and our associate's been over 20 years. So between between the three of us, you have over 50 years of experience. The great thing too, you have 3 people working on your loan at any given time. It's not just, I have one person. If he's sick or out, there's always 2 other people you can fall back on. So
We know the feeling.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's critical to have a team, man. Oh.
Yeah. No, it works. It works great. And I don't have to do the boring part of the transactions. So I love it. I love it more than probably the ladies, but I get to do all the fun stuff like golf. You have to take clients and agents to golf.
You have to take an agent with you.
And,
Of course.
And unfortunately, I'm not a big golfer, but I have to do what's right for the team,
that's
right?
important. Good
So
for you.
Thank you.
yeah.
Way to step up, dude.
Where are we going?
16,
Yeah.
Coeur d'Alene Resort.
Yeah.
God, what a terrible course to go to. But no, we're going to go have some fun. These 2 guys are great. You guys do a fantastic job. Born in Soviet Union, what it was, what they used to like to wear these hats. Hold on. I actually have one.
What? brought a
Oh
Soviet
my
hat.
gosh.
Yeah, born in Soviet Union, not
Yes.
Russia.
Yeah.
Soviet Union.
Yes.
So
You can take the headphones off if you need to.
You had to go buy one.
Will it fit
So-
over them? Oh my gosh.
So
No.
born in the Soviet Union. Believe it or not, I've had a lot of these kind of hats growing up in Russia, being in Kamchatka for over a year. Gets a little cold. And for those that don't know where Kamchatka is.
No. We know where Kamchatka
Why?
is.
Someone might not know.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you where it is
Okay.
because anybody else that has played Risk knows that if you put all your armies in Kamchatka, you can protect the U.S. over there and nobody can get Asia.
Someone played too much games.
Yes,
while they were
dude,
younger.
that's
Played
where I
a lot
let-
of risk, bro.
That's why I know where Kamchatka is. Sorry.
So
Huh.
Kamchatka gets cold. For those that don't play Risk or know where it's on the other side of Alaska. So if you've been in Alaska before,
Oh,
you've
yeah.
pretty much been in Kamchatka. It's same terrain, same weather. And so these kind of hats, they're great. They keep your ears warm. You can even tie them. They're super awesome.
Oh my
time.
gosh. Yeah.
And if it's a little warm for your ears, you just kind of flip it up, man. And there you go. And you just tie it on top like that.
That's the look I
And then,
recognize for sure.
So my dad spent 15 years between the Soviet military and then transitioned to the Russian military. I was actually born in Ukraine, but about 1 month old, we moved to Germany. And like I like to say, on the other side of the wall. Once the wall fell, we moved to Russia, moved around a little bit, being a military brat. And then in 1997, of all places, we moved to Kentucky.
Okay, so back up here
Yeah,
for a
that's a big
second.
jump.
So your dad what was he in the Soviet Army?
My dad was a major in the Soviet Army, and he was artillery.
Dude, that's
So he was an officer.
that's
Okay.
crazy.
Yeah.
That
So
explains.
now you guys, I didn't know about you moving to Germany. So when you moved to Germany, was your dad still in the Soviet Army at that time, or was that kind of what was the reason for that?
Correct. So, I mean, he was, obviously there was a little bit of tension back then. You have the EU, whatever, NATO and America on one side of the wall. You have Soviet Union on the other side of the wall. So we were on the other side of the wall. I mean, we grew up in a military Russian town. So pretty much everyone there spoke Russian. Their stores were Russian, the markets, whatever you call them. So, yeah, that was interesting. Unfortunately, I was I was from like till about 3 years old, 2.5, 3 years old. So I don't remember a whole lot about Germany. I just know I lived there. I have a couple random memories. Like I almost broke my leg, but that's about it.
Yeah,
Good memory.
Yeah. The one that I wish I kept, right?
you gotta have his dad on here, man.
Yeah.
Does
Does your dad live in the U.S. now too? Still?
Yeah. So
Yeah. Okay.
we moved to Kentucky and then we moved to California. And I would say the culture shock.
Oh, so you're a Californian.
No. Soviet Union.
Kentuckian.
Soviet Union. So moving from Kentucky, and we moved to a city called Agora Hills, which is 2 miles north of Calabasas. The culture shock going from Russia to Kentucky, from Kentucky to Agora Hills, Calabasas, was pretty much even. When we moved there, I mean, kids had $100,000 cars, and our house in Kentucky sold for $100,000. So big culture shock. I mean, I love California for the weather, for the diversity and the food, but obviously the politics, like most Californian refugees, brought us to North Idaho.
Yeah.
A couple questions. So, why did you guys move to the U.S.?
Is there like a big draw
Can we
of
talk
Russians
about this?
to Kentucky?
Are we allowed to talk
Is
about
that
this?
like-
Yeah, of course. No, and
Yes.
I'm pretty open. My
Did he
parents
get new orders? That's what I'm getting at.
sleeper cell. So no, but and I'm honest about it. It's my parents talk about it all the time, and it was just for the opportunity. In 1997, communism, fell, I believe, somewhere around 93. So in 97, Russia was not in a good place to raise a family,
Yeah.
hard to get jobs, basically just hard to survive. So my mom's parents moved here in 96. So my parents moved here in the hopes to give us a better future, which, I mean, I'm very thankful and blessed for the life I have. So I'm glad they moved because, I mean, we've been successful.
Yeah.
My wife, my kids, right? Who knows what would have happened if I was there, but maybe
Now,
not.
I know you live in a nice house now. Now, I wasn't your agent when you bought that house, but
I didn't know you back then.
yeah, you wish you did. I would have got you another 10 grand off. So anyways, But talk about when you guys moved to Kentucky. I remember you telling me like the living situation. I mean, coming over here is basically migrants coming to the U.S. and not having the connections and everything else. I mean, what was that like?
Oh man, the first 4 months are super interesting. At that time, it was just I only had two siblings, so my two siblings, my parents. We stayed in a 1-bedroom apartment for about 4 months with my grandparents. That was super awesome. You know, having 5 people in the sleeping in a living room of a 900 square foot apartment.
Can I pause you one second?
Yeah.
I have 2 questions that are pertinent. How old were you again when you
9.
moved? Okay, so you're 9. Did you speak English?
No, I knew elephant, and
Okay.
I don't speak English.
That's a start.
I mean, why did I know elephant? I don't know.
Elephant was okay.
Elephant, you know, maybe because I won't say that.
Might have been a code word in Kentucky for drugs.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, you know, it was a interesting experience. Then when my parents got an apartment, we stayed in an apartment for a year. I would say I get my hard work ethics from my parents. They worked 2 jobs, went to night school to learn English. After a year being in America, bought their house, their first house. So that was cool. We loved their house. And I actually got my own room. So I was like, whoa, this is rad. So lived there for about 4.5 years. And after that, parents got laid off because the 9/11, especially Kentucky and certain places, they didn't want to hire immigrants.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've met my dad, he's got a very heavy, thick accent, dude. And we've been in America since 1997, so about 27 years, and he still has the same accent. So my sister graduated high school in 2002, and she wanted to go to California. And, you know, my mom had a cousin out there, so she's like, hey, why don't we just fly your sister out there, give her senior trip. Next thing you know, my mom's cousin's like, hey, if your daughter doesn't want to go back to Kentucky, and my sister hated Kentucky, he's like, she can just stay here with us for as long as she needs with no rent. Next thing you know, while my mom is there, she finds a job. So all within about a week, it went from a senior trip to we're moving to California.
Mm.
Now, the house you lived in too, I think you told me this. Your parents gave you a room.
Yeah. So, I mean, humble beginnings. When we moved, it was kind of weird because, you know, I get people's parents separate and you live in 2 different houses at 2 different states. But for about like 8 months, my mom and my sister lived in California while me and my older brother, we lived in Kentucky while we were trying to sell the house. So we finally moved to California. So the first 6 months, kind of like moving to America. It's 5 of us in a 1-bedroom apartment in Tarzana, California, right next to Encino, for those who knows. And was not a very nice apartment, but it is, you know, parents made it. They made it work. We made it work. So me, my brother, and my sister shared the living room as our bedroom, living room, hangout space for the family. It was great. You know, like I never grew up with money, so that was never the important part of my life. The one thing I always tell people is like, I would take love over money. And my parents always provided a lot of love for me and my siblings and always supportive in everything we do. Well, except my dad. He tells you how it is. There's no sugarcoating. If you're born into a military family, you probably know what I'm talking about. So we did that. Then my parents got a 3-bedroom house in the Gore Hills, which was awesome. After 6 months, I was like, great, I get my own room again. And then 6 months later, my grandparents from Ukraine moved in. So then I was like, sweet. At, I don't know, 15, 16 years old, I got to go back to sharing a room with my brother. It was a 3-2, 1,200 square foot house. My sister moved out at that point. Me and my brother were still in high school. My little brother came along. We call him a pleasant surprise. He had his own room. Obviously, no one wanted to share a room with a baby. And then we had my grandparents had their own room. And then my parents made like the living room into a makeshift bedroom. And that went on for about, from like 03, July of 03 till April 2011. And then, you know, to save money.
Wow.
Yeah. It was fun. I mean, by that point, you know, eventually my brother moved out, got married, Then I moved out, but then my parents got this house, and I had like, I don't know, I was one of those kids that moved out, came back, moved out, came back, couldn't figure it out. So yeah, it was interesting, you know. So now it's like the small things in life. Like I tell people, I shared this probably with you before. Like I slept on a futon for 8 years because you couldn't fit the bed where my futon was. And eventually between sophomore and junior year, I went from being 5'4" to 6'1". So my dad had to take one side of the futon off so my legs can hang off the futon.
Jeez.
So when people are like, hey,
Dude.
let's go camping. It's going to be fun. We're going to sleep in sleeping bags on the rocks. And I'm like, no, I bought a very nice bed and I like to enjoy my bed. I like to say I spent 8 years camping in a row. So when people ask me to go camping and they're like, oh, you're such a little bitch, you don't want to go camping. I'm like, no, let's get an RV so we can have a bed. Yes, I might be a little bougie now. It did come from a humble beginning, but I also like my sleep and I like a comfortable bed, and I don't see a problem with that.
That's a cool story, and you hear that a lot. I mean, people that obviously don't come from a whole lot, and you have to deal with, and it's just families what kind of supports you. And it's neat to see that you guys have been able to I mean, make something of that. I mean, 2011 wasn't that long ago.
No.
Like, no. We're talking about you being on a futon 12 years ago, 13 years ago. That's not that long.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know, and it's, I never really thought about it, that it's only like 13 years ago I was sleeping on a futon, and now we got, what was that, sleep master or something?
Yeah, Sleep Number. It's like the worst bed ever.
It's the best bed in the world.
Is that the, you die? Yeah, no.
Yeah.
It's for people, you know what it's for? It's for people that can't make up their minds.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
They're like,
great.
oh, find your number. Guess what? If you find your number, you never change it again. There's no reason to have that. Just buy a bed that fits.
You know what? Hater. Yeah, you know what? I mean, to your point, I look back and it's like life's been crazy. It's when I was how old was I? So at 26, I was actually 26. I'm gonna be 36. No, at 28, I was actually renting a room from my brother because, you know, I just wasn't making enough money. Wanted to get out of parents' house, so I was renting a room from my brother. I mean, 6 years ago, right? At 28, 7 years ago, at 28 years old.
And now you own rental houses
Yeah, we have 7 rentals.
in that space of time.
Yeah.
That's impressive. Dude.
Well, I mean, you know,
It's crazy.
to the point we said earlier, the looks, the mouth, and I got a brain that's not in my head, it's in my wife's head. Meeting Raina was probably one of the best things in my life, because coming from, like, we were never begging for food. You know, there's people that had it worse off than me, and that was always my mentality. Don't bitch about it. Don't complain about it. Like, you have a house. You have actually something to sleep on. You're not sleeping on the floor. You're not sleeping outside. You're not sleeping in shacks. You know, so I always found something to be thankful for, right? And I always knew my parents worked their ass off. They were super hardworking. They still are. And they always try to do their best. So never have, like, I don't have any problems with my parents or how, oh, I didn't have this, or, oh, they got new shoes, or they went on vacation. It was always like, hey, there's people that have it much worse than me. And I still think about it when things happen in my life. I'm like, well, yeah, that sucks. But I got rental properties. I'm worried about fixing one of my rental properties. And you have people that are worried about buying their first condo.
Right.
So it's like, should I really complain? Do I have room to complain? Not really, you know? And that's why I always say I'm blessed and thankful for the things we have. And I'm thankful for my parents, because watching them work so hard in their life passed down to me, to where I'm like, hey, this is where I want to be. And once I get there, I'm like, all right, next goal.
Yeah.
And, you know, I didn't want to be a landlord. I like the idea of owning homes. I don't like the idea of dealing with homes.
Yeah.
That's why my wife handles it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you do the dishes at least?
At home? Yeah.
Okay. At least.
Have you-
Bro, they make a mess when they cook. I'll say this. They came over to our house one night. They're like, hey, we'll come cook you dinner. I was like, they were in there, and I'm like, I'm going to have to tear the kitchen out. Like, shit was everywhere,
Okay.
dude. It was awesome. So they came to our house. They actually cooked us a meal at our house.
Was it like a traditional meal?
No.
Oh,
No, they just came over. They made like some stir fry or something.
Yeah, it was Mongolian beef.
God dang, man. I mean, and when they left, everything was clean.
Yeah.
I was amazed because there was so much stuff everywhere. It's like when you have a party at your house and you're
Shit,
like,
you can come cook in my house.
oh
anytime.
man.
I have a question.
Yep.
Backtracking a little bit. Did your dad have a hard time transitioning from being a major in the military to, I don't know what he did here, but was that a hard transition for him?
You know, in the beginning, they didn't like parents that care, right? You don't want to tell your kids the crap you're going through and the struggles. Being older and like, I mean,
that would be humbling. I would
guess, 100%, right? I mean, my mom has a double master's from Russia in engineering, you know, and then my dad, Russian military officer through academy. And I remember the name of the company. The first company I worked for was called Correct Optical. And what they did is they literally put glasses together. That was their job. So you're coming from double master's engineer and a military academy graduate, 15 years in military, and now you're putting glasses together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's tough, right?
It's very, you know, as a kid, you don't understand that. Being 9 years old, I'm like, hey, they're going to work. They're going to work. You don't get the level or whatever success or whatever you want to call it. Being an adult, I'm like, holy crap.
Yeah, right. Can you imagine doing that?
I'm like, you know, my first real job that I like W-2 or pay stubs was McDonald's. So it's like me going from where I'm at now to just going and being a cashier at McDonald's, and not to hate on that. It's just be like, wow.
Yeah. What was you know, leaving Russia and coming to the US, obviously, I mean, it's post Cold War, everything else like that, but what was the process? Do you remember it all? Like, was it a difficult thing to leave Russia? Was it kind of frowned upon? Was it okay? I mean,
did you sneak out?
Yeah. What was the deal with that?
You know, being a kid, you don't really notice it, but then talking to your parents, like back then when we were leaving Russia, we didn't tell anyone. The only people who knew that we were coming to America were my grandparents and my aunt and uncle. And the big fear was, if you tell people you're coming to America, people, especially back then, had this image like, oh, if you're coming to America, you got money. You're rich. That's how you're going to America. So my parents didn't want to tell anyone. I didn't even know we were moving to America until I was on a flight. Midway. They were going to America. That's when my parents told me. I thought we were going to Belarus at that time.
I mean, to think about your dad, I mean, and your mom too, but like in the positions they were at, it was that important to them to raise their kids somewhere else that they were willing to walk away from that. And I imagine you couldn't take anything with you, really.
No,
other than a suitcase, right?
We had these big old bags. I'm talking about big, and I was a tiny little kid. I'm skinny, walking with these two bags, one in each hand, just dragging them across the airport, barely moving forward, right? Yeah, we didn't take a lot. And, you know, one of the silly things we took is pillows. Because people, our family in America were like, American pillows suck, blah, 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 blah. You got to bring your pillows. Blah. And so we brought like 6 pillows with us, or 5. And I was like, that is the dumbest thing we could have brought. But you don't know what you don't know. You know, like if someone's,
pillows are terrible.
Can you imagine bringing pillows? Well, you stuff a suitcase with pillows. That's one of your suitcases.
There is something about having your own pillow, man. My wife and I bring our pillows on vacation. I will put it in a bag and bring it with me. I cannot stand hotel pillows.
Bougie, man. I fold a sweatshirt up and I put my head on it.
I mean, I've been there too, but I'm old now, and I'm like,
I mean, I've been there. It depends how many drinks I've had. You know, when you have a couple of drinks, everything's comfortable.
Anything's a pillow if you try hard enough.
So, I mean, we didn't bring a lot. I mean, we brought some clothes, you know, some pictures and so on. And the funny thing is, right, style in a different country is completely different. So I used to wear short shorts back in 97, 98 before they came cool again.
I was like, they're cool now.
Yeah, they're cool now. In 97, they weren't very cool. So you can imagine I show up to camp. People are like, what are you wearing? And I'm like, hi. Don't know.
Elephant.
I have no idea what they're even saying. And I'm like, see them looking at me. I'm like, can we be friends? And they're like, oh, bro. Like,
that is funny.
Yeah. The weird Russian kid.
Yeah.
Well, the crazy thing is, have you met his brother?
Yes. Yeah.
He's small.
I know. It's shocking.
Yeah.
This is crazy. What are you, 6'4"?
Yeah, I'm about 6'4", 240.
Dude, his brother came and helped us. We went to go clean up a friend's
I met
yard.
him line dancing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's
you were there.
Scary.
Yeah.
Yes, I was.
Yeah.
But yeah,
he didn't even drink.
Dude, Yev came out of the fort. We were cleaning up all these trees, And Yev, first of all, shows up and he's like totally playing the part, right? He's got overalls on. He's got like a red plaid shirt, long sleeve tucked in. I mean, he looks like a lumberjack.
That hat on.
And he's huge. Yes. Got his glasses on. And he comes walking out. We're moving all these trees. He comes out walking out of the forest with 3 trees. I shit you not. He's got 3 trees laying across his arms, comes walking out. I'm like, good Lord. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
he makes you look small.
Yeah. He's a little bigger. He's about 6'5", sub 300, you know, just
Lordy.
About 60, 70 pounds heavier.
And where he's super loud, Yev is like, yeah, just super mellow.
How's that happen?
Yeah. I always have to make up for the height and weight difference with my brother. So, and then something just stuck, and I don't know. My voice is just always
he's a good
loud.
dude.
Yeah, Yev's cool. I mean, it's funny because me and my brother grew up like twins, even though he's a year older, and we always say 1 year, 1 month, 11 days, almost like Irish twins. I don't know why, but we always thought that was cool. 1, 1, 1, 1, right? Well, when we came to America, I skipped 4th grade, and I like to think it's because I was smart. But my brother reminds me it's because my mom wanted me to be in the same grade as him so he can help me, which I still think because I was smart. But, so we grew up like twins since 5th grade. We had classes together.
So you were in the same grade, even though he's a year older?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So grew up, same classes, some classes together, played sports together. So it was cool. It was like growing up with a twin, because we did everything together. So he's still to this day my best friend. Funny enough, I always wanted twins for that reason, because I'm like, wow, what a cool experience for a kid to have. Well, that was until my brother had twins. And then after about the first 2 months, I think I prayed to God for the next 3 years. Dude, please, God, do not give me twins. Please, I was lying. Please, just one at a time.
That's
please,
a reoccurring nightmare of mine to have twins or triplets.
I can't.
Have you seen like 6 or 8 kids at once?
Yeah,
I'm like,
I can't even watch that. It gives me anxiety.
You need help. You can't do that there's no way.
I need help with 3 kids.
Yeah.
I just need help with my daughter.
She's so sweet stuff.
She is sweet. She's so sweet.
I only ever see the sweet side.
She loves the fact that she saw that blooper of me talking about how she's wrecking me every day. Constantly.
That was the best blooper.
She comes home and she finds a way to screw with me. She'll just come home and be like,
I mean,
I wonder where she got that from.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What? It's your own doing.
Yeah,
bro.
You know that apple doesn't fall from the tree. Yeah, just say.
Great. Squash the apple. Anyways.
Yeah. So, I mean, people ask me, I talk about my life all the time. There's no hidden secrets in sense like, we grew up, we didn't have a whole lot of money. We had a whole lot of love though. So it's like, I'll take love over money any day of the week. Hard work ethics came from my parents, and just, I like being successful, and I like helping people, with whatever I can do, except when it's like clean up brush. That's why I called back up and have my brother go do that.
Yeah, it's a tough job.
I think I had golf that day. I'm sorry, bro.
Duty calls. Do your parents still work? Or are they retired? Or?
My dad's retired, which is awesome because I do have a little baby that's going to be 10 months and 3 days. And so he watches her half the week, which helps us out a lot.
So they're up here now.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So they live in Rathdrum. So, I don't know, was it like 7-8 minutes away from my house? It's awesome.
I just text you. I'm just letting her know what you're doing.
You're so full of shit.
That you're not working.
I'm not working. I was like, podcasts where I can use an hour of just talking, my favorite activity. Let's do it. Easy. I've been born to do this.
Easy.
She gets so mad.
Yeah, you're Jack.
I just told her you're laying on our couch. He comes into our office the other day, and she's yelling at him. She's like, Ivan, you need to get to work. So he's doing his rounds around Keller Williams, and he walks past. He wasn't even coming to say hi to me. He walks past. I'm like, hey, come here.
Door was locked.
He walks in, and he's like, what's up, bro? And I'm like, what are you doing, man? Sit down. And he's like, no, dude, Raina's pissed. I got to work. I'm trying to do this. I'm like, bro, seriously, she's not here. Just sit down for a half a second. He's like, dude, I can't.
No, you're like, no, check out the new couch. You got to sit on this new couch. You're
As
so
he takes a seat, I'm already pulling up my phone, and I click it right when he's hitting the thing, and I send it to Raina. 2 seconds later, his phone rings. She's like, what are you doing?
And this guy's supposed to be one of my best friends right here, right? This is what you do.
That's what a best friend does.
Yes.
It was awesome.
I was like, as soon as she called me, I was like, he took a fucking picture. He took a picture of me.
Snaked you.
It was like immediate.
Nicely
And
done.
she was
Yeah.
mad. He had her on speakerphone. It was hilarious.
So
Then
tell-
Dave
so-
felt bad. He's like, no, I was just kidding. I made him sit down.
So tell me where your daughter gets it from again. I'm
Yeah,
not-
I know,
I'm
right?
not sure, right?
Gotta be
Defend
from Renee.
her.
I'm not sure.
Gotta be from Renee.
So you met a nice lady like Raina. Obviously, we love Raina.
Yeah.
And she does. She does a phenomenal job with her. She's a great communicator. She's one of the sweetest ladies I've ever met. How'd you meet her?
Work. It's a funny story. She couldn't keep her eyes off me at work. And
Oh, is this when you were working at the strip club?
Can you cut this?
yeah. No, so we used to work for Wells Fargo. We were on a mortgage team, but we covered different branches. And we went to this training, and my old manager, and for those who worked at a bank before, the trainings are just party time, because we would get like $75 to $100 a day for food. And they would feed you breakfast and lunch at the training. So like $100 to go out, basically. That's the way I always saw it. So we were, what a dick.
While I'm here closing loans.
I
That's
started texting you. Yeah.
That's
I'm like, he's on the
great.
couch. She's like, while I'm here closing loans. Yeah, while you're working.
So I was going to, we were on the same team, but we only saw each other once a month during team meetings. And she's, as you know, she's more work driven. I'm more fun driven. So
yeah, seeing that.
I know, right? Surprised.
It's okay.
So she was like, she gets in the office and we would sit in cubicles, do work, and she would work and I'd just go around talking to all the friends and stuff. And so she didn't want to do anything with me. Like, she didn't want nothing to do with me. She didn't want to talk to me. I guess one day she walked in, and this is Southern California, right? August, Southern California. It's hot. It's hot. She walks in and she's wearing this turtleneck. And I was like, it's a cute sweater. I'm not going to lie. It's a cute sweater. She looks good in it. She still has it. It's sexy. But I was like, what are you wearing? And it's probably the first thing I've ever said to her. I was like, what are you wearing? And she's like, stunned, like, what? I was like, it is 110 degrees outside and you're wearing a turtleneck? And of course, there's other people in the office, guys, people laughed. So she got embarrassed. So then she was like, Ivan's a douche. I'll never talk to him ever in my life. Little did she know, I'm very persuasive. So about 6 months later, I'm going to work training. And I was like, talking to my manager. I'm like, hey, who's from the team? Who's going training with me? And they're like, he's like, oh, just you and this lady. And I was like, well, the lady was super nice, super cool, but she was also about 55, 56. I'm like, she doesn't party. Like, I want someone to party. You know what we go to work training for. And I was like, hey, how about Raina? She's kind of hot. And he's like, dude, get out of my office. I'm like, come on, Sam, hook me up, brother. And he's like, dude, get out of my office. So I was like, all right, cool, whatever. So it gets even better. Work training usually on Mondays was just the day you get there. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you have the training, you go home Thursday night. So I'm like, all right, Monday's like a day off basically, because I'm just going to do nothing, check a couple of emails in the morning, and then I'll drive down training. Well, about an hour before the training, the lady that I knew was going texts me and she's like, where are you at? And I was like, dude, check-in's at like 3:30. I'll be there. She's like, no, training starts in an hour. And I was like, oh shit. Considering the training was 2 hours away. So I was like, oh, great. That's a good way to start the training, right?
Yeah.
So of course I'm speeding, get there, I'm an hour late. I walk into class, the presenter, teacher, whatever, she's in the middle of talking and I'm like, so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for interrupting you. I'm just going to go sit down. I already got a seat saved. I'm so sorry. Hi guys. Sorry. It's all good. I'm so sorry. There was crazy accidents on the freeway. I'm so sorry.
Caused by me.
Yeah, probably caused by me. So I go sit down. As soon as I sit down, I was like, go ahead. You can go ahead. You can resume. I'll just log in quietly and I'll ask her what page we're on. And then we're sitting at like a U shape or like two tables like this. So you had two people and one person here. And me and Raina, like I ended up sitting right across her. So as soon as I saw her, I was like, sweet. Yes, she made it. Try all my hardest, best pickup lines during the training. Didn't really work. About 2 weeks later, I asked her to hang out. Well, my hanging out was a date. Her hanging out was like, we're hanging out as friends. Came there with flowers, super nervous. Very rare I get nervous, but I was nervous. And then from that point on, history.
So
Is that easy?
the flowers sold the deal.
I guess.
Got you in the door.
I don't know. I think it's my face still, but I don't know.
Yeah.
That was only 6 years ago, right?
7.
7 years ago.
Yeah, we've been together for 7 years. Yeah, it's been a crazy 7 years. We traveled a good amount, 3 kids. I mean, between homes we bought and sold, 10 homes, so
Jeez.
it's been a busy, fun, exciting 7 years.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
So you guys obviously have a ton of history with loans and everything else like that. And for the most part, there's a lot going on right now with the whole industry and loans and all that stuff. I mean, I know you spoke at Keller Williams yesterday, just kind of move it a little bit business. What's the expectation? A lot of people are asking us, like, what do we expect with loans and with, with the new ruling that's coming out and interest rates and all that stuff. Do you guys have any idea or pulse on where the interest rates are going and stuff like that?
Like a lot of analysts have been flip-flopping. Oh, the rates are going to go down. Oh, no, they're not going to go down that much. Oh, they're only going to be in the low 6s or high 5s. My personal opinion, with the election, with the way the economy is, I think we're going to be somewhere in the mid 5s. That's my personal opinion. And it's just happened. I've been doing this again for almost 18 years, and every election year is the same thing. It doesn't matter who you vote for or who's in power. They do the same thing every time. So I personally think we'll be somewhere in the 5s, between 5 and 6 range, probably more in mid 5s, which is great. It's especially for a lender, it's going to help us with refis are coming back, because we had a lot of people from last year that were at 7, 7.25, 7.5, right? If you can drop your rate 2% on a $500,000 mortgage, and you're saving $10,000 of interest per year.
Right.
Damn.
That's a lot of money.
So you just think about it, right? It's close to $800 something per month in payment
on 1%, 2%.
2%.
That's
Yeah.
a huge difference.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're saving if someone told me I could save $800 on my mortgage rate now, done. Let's do it.
Right.
And that's the fun part of a lender, or the easy part of a lender. When you have a rate dip like that, I mean, you don't have to sell anything, right?
Right.
But I do think the rates will dip. I also think it'll help the new buyers. Last year, unfortunately, we did see a lot of buyers that got priced out because of the rates.
Right.
You have a lot of times where we're at 49% debt to income ratio on a conventional loan. The rate goes up 0.5%. They can't afford that house. They got to go down 40, 50, 60, 80 grand. And as we know, buying a house for 400 or buying a house for 320, what's easier, right? There's a lot more houses and inventory at 400 than 320, or at least the houses where you don't have to fix something or repair and so on.
Now, I was talking about this earlier when I was teaching earlier today over at Keller Williams, is setting unrealistic expectations. And with rates being as low as they got, I mean, down into what was the lowest you saw? Down to
the lowest I've ever locked someone in?
Yeah.
The lows.
Yeah.
1.87.
Okay.
Damn.
So
VA?
No. Wells Fargo had this thing. If you had $1 million or more, you get 0.5% off, and the rates were at 2.375. So,
well, I guess
the guy had $1 million.
Yeah.
So, but realistically, 2.375. I've done a lot of those.
Okay. So, I mean, and that's what I'm talking about. Unrealistic expectations. Yeah. People start to see that. And then the expectation is set that like, oh, that's where the rate should be. In 18 years of lending, what's the highest you've seen rates, and where have you seen rates go in those 18 years?
I would see, and I agree with you. What we saw in the 2s, the 3s, that is definitely not a real expectations. The rates don't go down that low. That was an anomaly. We might see it again in our lifetime. I don't think anytime soon, unless there's something really, really crazy that's going to happen with economy or worldwide. COVID. I started COVID. COVID didn't help. When I started, I actually started at a hard money lending. And we used to do loans at 13%. And that wasn't even that long ago.
Jeez.
Wow.
That was 17 and a half, 18 years ago. So, but I mean, if you're between a 5 and a 7, that's pretty average. Like that's not a bad rate.
So that's what I'm getting at, is that right now we're actually sitting more from my understanding.
Yeah.
I haven't been doing this for 18 years, but from what I'm looking at is that we're actually sitting more at the norm now than at the 2s and 3s and 4s and stuff like that.
100%. I
Okay.
mean, if being above 5 historically has not been a bad thing. You're right to your point is, we got so used to either getting those rates ourselves or hearing our friends or family talk like, oh, dude, I just got a 2.75 or I got a 3 and 3.125, right? It's like, whoa. And then you go buy a house and it's like 6.5. They're like, yeah, but my cousin got a 3.125. It's like, yeah, well, your cousin bought it at the perfect time, right?
Well, then also there's the misunderstanding that, I mean, you can buy down a rate, right?
Correct.
So, I mean, I hear some of these people tell, oh yeah, I got this rate. And I'm like, I just refinanced too. And I wasn't close to that. So I think that's another thing people don't understand. They hear these stories of, oh, I just got this, or I got these things. And really there could be a lot more to it. I mean, you can pay a lot of money to buy down a rate, can't you?
Well, one, you can pay money down, right? And then a lot of times what people don't understand is someone that's going to have a 780 FICO, 50% down, right? They're going to get a much better rate than someone with a 620 with no money down than that's doing a down payment assistance, or like, let's say FHA, 3.5% down. So, if someone put 50% down, and a lot of times people don't go into the details. They're like, oh, I bought a house, I'm at 5.5. And you're like, I just bought one, I'm at 6.875. Well, they didn't go into details that they have perfect credit, that they have assets, that they put 50% down, versus the person they're talking to barely came up with their down payment and their FICO is awful, right? So those are some things. That's when people, and I used to love this, especially when the rates were lower, because they're like, well, why am I getting 3.5 and my dad got a 3%? And I'm like, your dad put 50% down and you're putting 3.5. Like,
do you think it was a bad idea for rates to ever go that low? Is that kind of what put us in some of these positions with housing prices?
I think we kept them that low for too long. I don't necessarily think going that low was a bad idea. I just think as long as it lasted, that's what I think put us in a bad situation, because then we were like slowly, and kind of went like that when we increased the rates, which, I mean, shoot, 21 to 22, 22 to 23. Like in 22, I had this pre-approval at 5%. In 23, when they called me, we were at 7.5.
Ouch.
2.5% in 1 year is a lot.
Yep.
It's a lot, right? And that's what I was saying. It did push several buyers out from what they can actually afford.
Yeah.
I mean, that put the brakes on the market overnight. It was
100%
noticeable by all of us for sure. That was,
yeah. The first half of 23, we're like, all right, it's not that bad. Second half, we're like, what is going on right now?
But that was the unique thing, is that it did put the brakes on, but even cash buyers weren't like making out, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't like prices plummeted and it was just the interest rates that were up. Prices were still high.
yeah.
Even cash buyers were having a hard time because they didn't want to invest in something that was overpriced.
Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of people too, right? Usually prices go up, rates go down, rates go up, prices go down. That didn't really happen. And I think that's where a lot of cash buyers were like, well, if the rates are going up, that's got to mean that the price is going to go down. So why would I pay $1 million if in 6 months it could be 800,000, which makes sense. I would, if I was investing at that time, I probably would think the same thing.
Right.
I mean, I talk to people all the time. They're like, oh, I'm just going to wait. I'm going to wait till next year. The housing market's going to crash. I'm like, I don't think so. What are your thoughts on that?
So we moved to North Idaho Christmas Day 2021. And that was our Christmas present to one another. And I still have clients, some of the first clients that I've talked to out here, but they're like, oh, it's going to crash. It's going to crash. That was, January, February 22. We're now in April 24. I mean, I don't see it crashing. The prices from last year in February, the prices are up by 5%, 4.875, I think was the last thing I saw. So
there's so much demand too.
Yeah.
That's what
Especially
makes me
out here.
think it's not going to happen here. Yeah.
You know what's crazy too? We just talked about this once again. The class that I was just teaching there, people were asking like, when's, do you think there's going to be a dip? Is there a right time to buy? What do you say to buyers that are like, oh, is now the right time? It's an investor conversation that we're having right now, right? It's about people that have money that want to place it somewhere and they're trying to find the best deal. There's a lot to look into that into the economy. But, for people that are watching or viewing, my personal take for families is that you really run a huge risk. I've always said it, even before I was in real estate, the best time to buy for your family is right now. And that's not me saying today, April 4th, 2024. I'm only saying that for today. It doesn't matter when it is in the economy. The best time to buy for your family is right now. I see too many families that say, oh, we're going to wait for the crash. They're not investing. They're trying to find a home to put their kids in and schools and everything else. Next thing you know, you have 8 years that have passed by your kids and you're still trying to wait for that crash or find that investment. And granted, some people can't at certain points, but the way I look at it is I would rather buy a house that is smaller and put my family in a place to where I know that my kids are going to have longevity, they're going to have security, they're going to have those things, as opposed to wait and try to play a game to figure out. Because in 2019, I bought my house for $450,000. The neighbors, I felt like they were gloating. They literally came across the street and they're like, thank you so much for paying that, because all of our values just went up because of that. We can't believe that you paid $450,000. Right. And if I would have been back then, if I was an investor, there's no way I would have bought it for that amount. There's no way, but it was the right time for my family. That's what we could afford.
Yeah. What is it worth now?
Almost 800.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In 5 years.
And back then it was just, it was a 3,600 square foot shanty for $450,000. I mean, we way overpaid at the time, right? We're looking at it like, oh my gosh, it should be closer to 400. Nope. Felt terrible about the decision, but my family was in a place and they were happy with it. And it was what we could afford at the time.
And over time, historically, it always goes up.
That's the only trend that's regular.
Yeah.
And I would say to that point, right, there are people that want to buy right now, but they can't. I get it. If you can, to your point, if you can't afford a house, you should buy. Because here's the thing. If you're
not as an investment for yourself,
because most people, and it doesn't work this way, but most people think I'm going to buy this house. I'm going to stay there for 10 years. A lot of times it doesn't work that way. It doesn't. You either keep it as a rental or you're going to buy something else. So my thought about it, listen, in all reality, even if you buy a $500,000 house right now, let's say next year it drops to 400. But would you say in 10 years that house is not going to be at least 500,000 or more?
Yeah.
There's no way it's going to, there's no way it's not going to be 500,000, even if it just stays plateau, right? In 10 years, you just not paid off, but you're a third of the way done with paying your mortgage. Your mortgage doesn't go up. Your principal and interest, once you're in a fixed 30 years rate, that stays. If you're in an apartment, every year you're sitting there thinking, are they going to raise my rent on me? Do I need to change my lifestyle? Yeah. Because maybe it's $200, maybe it's $600. And we've seen that here. So my thought is like this, especially for the first time home buyers, they're like, well, I want, 4.3 and I want 2,900 square feet minimum. And it's like, do a step up. I totally did a step up. When I bought, right before me and Raina started dating, I bought a 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo, 1,000 square foot. And I was stoked. One, I was a single guy. So I was like, how much room do I really need? But I was just like, perfect. And I was worried about the same thing. It was 2017. And I'm thinking, shoot, like, I really hope prices don't go down. And I was talking to my dad, and
bro, you have done so much in a short time. You just said 2017.
I don't understand.
I literally moved up here 2 years ago. You gotta be kidding.
So 2017, I bought this condo for $335,000. I was talking to my dad, and I was like, damn, I'd be so pissed if the prices go down. My dad was actually the one, your logic. He was like, look, well, don't you want to become an investor? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, aren't you going to keep this for probably, if you're going to keep it forever, 30 years? He goes, we all know in 30 years, it's not going to be worth $335,000. I kind of sat on it, and I was like, you know what? It's a good point. I'm not planning to sell this place. I did sell it. We sold it in 22, and I sold it for $565,000.
Where'd you reinvest that money?
That's when I used Dave. And I bought a place on 5th Street that has just been wonderful. No problems at all in that place. And
he goes, bro, we thought it had AC. And I'm like, what made you think it said, nothing we signed said it goes, it has a thermostat. I'm like, that doesn't mean it has AC.
It goes below 60. It must have AC.
You know what? No matter how many houses you buy, just treat it as your first house. And that was an oversight, $10,000 oversight on my part. because we were like, oh, cool, it's got a thermostat, it's got to have AC. And we looked at it, what was it? Like, we looked at it in April and it was chilly, so you didn't need AC in the house. So like Southern California, you would have had that thing blasting, right? Out here, April, I mean, we're in April now and it's not that hot outside where you're going to turn AC on. So comes like 2 months later or 3 months later, we're like, dude, 2 months later, we're like, we're having someone move in there. We got it ready to rent it out. And they're like, it doesn't have AC. Like, it's not blowing cold air. And we're like, what do you mean it doesn't have AC? So I get to the house, I walk around and I'm like, holy shit, we don't have an AC in this house. So get the guys out there. They're looking at it, got a couple quotes. And then I was like, oh, great. The furnace is going to go out in 2 years. So we were like, screw it. Buy a new furnace and the AC, got some discount, quote unquote. And yeah, the Fifth Street's been a wonderful place. You helped me buy, brother. So, but yeah.
All right.
That's funny.
Dude, 7 houses.
I know. Since 2017.
Wow.
And we sold about.
Where am I going wrong here?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Step my game up, dude.
We're just doing podcasts.
That's it. We're here.
He's out there selling homes. We're just in
he's
here.
out just running around.
I'm just running around. Like I said, I have a partner who's very smart and she's very frugal with her money. And growing up with not having a lot of stuff, I'm like, ooh, shiny thing, let's buy it. She's like, no. Like, damn it, fun sucker.
Yeah,
so yeah,
smart though.
You always have to have one person that likes to spend money and someone that's got a more voice than you that doesn't spend money. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, thanks to Rainer, you know, we have a healthy savings account, investments. We got investment properties. But yeah, I mean, it's been a fun ride, and living in North Idaho has been cool.
What's next for you guys? Anything exciting coming down the pipeline? You're just gonna keep chugging along doing what you do.
Well, my 9-year-old plays club soccer, so your weekends are shot for the next
forever.
Yeah. For the next 2 months, and then we're gonna have a month break, which is super awesome, and then it's shot for the next 4 months after that. But no, we're going to Washington for a tournament. We're going to Kalispell in May. Another soccer tournament. So basically the whole life revolves around the oldest son right now. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I told my wife we need a vacation without the kids. So see how that works out.
Well, you guys made a big impact on the community. I know you guys have started to meet a ton of people, and you guys, everybody seems to know Ivan and Raina now. So
yeah, very common names. Agreed. I already got the idea for the thumbnail. I just want a picture of you with this on, and it's just going to say Russians in North Idaho? ?
Yeah. You know, it's funny. Raina's not Russian. She was born in California. She did move to Reno for a couple of years, came back to California.
For some reason, I thought she was for the longest time, by the way.
She's got so much different cultures, so many different cultures in her. Like her dad's part Punjabi, Indian, Native American, Hispanic, Spanish. Her mom's half black, half white. And so she's like a melting pot. And she's also 6 feet tall. So people are like, hey, you're 6 feet tall standing next to a 6'4" Russian. You must be Russian. So
I
people call
I'm guilty of that.
Yeah. People are looking at us like, I mean, our nicknames, I would say, is like, oh, the Russians. We're going to the Russians' house. The Russians are coming over.
That's what we say.
Yeah. See?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It just works that way. But yeah, I'll do this as a thumbnail for you guys.
I think that would be great, dude.
The Russians in North Idaho. Love it.
David looked good with that on too.
It's made in China.
Shut your mouth. Everything's made in China.
I assume it's from Amazon. So
it's made in China.
You know what? I actually asked my dad. I was like, Dad, come on. Because I do have like some of his old military stuff. I have his military belt, which like, Jesus, thing they used to beat me with. But yeah, I have that, PTSD a little bit.
Yeah.
But I was like, come on, should have kept one of these. And he's like, man, if I knew we were going to move to North Idaho from California, I definitely would have. I'm like, well, should have.
That's funny.
Well, should we call it?
Yep. We appreciate you, man. Thank you for coming down.
Thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
Brother. Good talk.
Yes, sir.
See you on the green.
Catch you next time.